humanity had never been considered a major player in the galactic concord. Among the vast assembly of spacefaring species that governed interstellar affairs, humans were viewed as newcomers, persistent, somewhat peculiar, with their strangely forward-facing predator eyes set in the faces of what otherwise seemed like harmless herbivores. Their technology lagged behind most established species by several decades, if not centuries. When human representatives spoke at Concord assemblies, the chamber often emptied as delegates took the opportunity for refreshment breaks or private conversations in the hallways. This suited Earth's leadership reasonably well. Being underestimated had its advantages. The colony on Proxima Centauri b represented humanity's proudest achievement in interstellar colonization. Though only harboring about 30,000 souls, New Haven, as the settlers call their main settlement, had transformed from a collection of prefabricated habitats into a thriving community with its own distinct culture over the span of 3 generations. Unlike Earth's cramped megalopolises, New Haven boasted wide avenues, sustainable architecture that complemented the alien landscape, and community spaces designed to foster connection among the colonists. The Lawrence family had been among the first wave of settlers. Marcus Lawrence now ran the colony's largest hydroponic farm, providing fresh produce to supplement the protein cultures that formed the staple of the colonist diet. His daughter, Eliza, had recently finished her advanced studies in xenobotany and had been accepted for a research position at Earth's prestigious Global Science Academy. At 19, she would be the youngest researcher in her department, a source of immense pride for the entire colony. "I still can't believe you're leaving tomorrow," Marcus said as he helped Eliza pack the last of her sample cases. The sterile collection of native flora would accompany her on the journey, a foundation for her future research. "I know, Dad. I can hardly believe it myself." Eliza sealed the case and checked the stasis field indicator. "But the stellar horizon makes the run every 6 months. If I miss it now, you have to wait until next season, I know." Marcus smiled, the creases around his eyes deepening. "Your mother would have been so proud." Eliza's mother had died 5 years earlier during a containment breach at the medical research facility. The colony's memorial garden contained a tree planted in her honor, a gesture that seemed fitting for the woman who had pioneered adaptations of Earth vegetation to Proxima's unique soil composition. Across the settlement, similar scenes played out as the stellar horizon's arrival approached. Dr. Samir Patel packed medical supplies he was bringing to his aging parents on Mars. The Zhang family prepared their twins for their first trip to Earth to meet their grandparents. Technician Joao Ferreira checked the maintenance equipment he would use during his 6-month rotation on Europa Station. The civilian transport vessel represented not just transportation, but connection, the umbilical cord that kept humanity's scattered children linked to their mother world and to each other. The stellar horizon itself was not particularly impressive by Concord standards. A refurbished Avalon-class passenger vessel, it had been retrofitted for the longer interstellar journeys now required of humanity's merchant fleet. Though plain and utilitarian compared to the gleaming vessels of species like the Thelicosa or the Quan, it was a source of pride for Earth's Interstellar Transport Authority, a symbol of human determination to claim their place among the stars despite technological disadvantages. Captain Elena Rodriguez had commanded the vessel for 7 years, longer than any previous captain. She knew every quirk of its aging systems and had personally overseen each retrofit and upgrade. Under her command, the Horizon had maintained a perfect safety record, no small achievement given the challenges of interstellar travel and the limitations of human technology. Final passenger manifest confirmed. Captain, First Officer Way reported as Rodriguez completed her pre-departure inspection. 173 passengers, 42 crew. Thank you, Tomas. All systems, green across the board, were cleared for departure in 30 minutes. Rodriguez nodded, satisfied. Another routine run. 6 weeks to Earth if everything went smoothly. Nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, across 10 parsecs of space, Commander Vrex of the KRYLL battle cruiser Implacable reviewed sensor data with growing irritation. The KRYLL with their rigid hierarchical society and militaristic culture, had emerged as one of the dominant powers in the sector over the past 3 centuries. Resembling bipedal reptilians with pronounced cranial crests that signified their social rank, they had built their empire through strategic conquest and carefully calculated alliances. Humans were not worth calculating about, in Vrex's estimation. At a diplomatic reception the previous cycle, a human delegate had attempted to engage him in conversation about trade possibilities. Vrex had barely acknowledged the creature before moving on to speak with a Jakku representative, a species that at least commanded respect through their advanced gravitic manipulation technology. "Commander, we've detected an anomalous energy signature at bearing 247, Mark 18, reported Sensor Officer Krell. Classification: unknown, sir. It doesn't match any recognized drive emissions in our database." Vrex's cranial frill expanded slightly, a sign of interest. Magnify visual. The view screen showed only empty space where the sensors indicated movement. "Could be a sensor malfunction," suggested Subcommander Drax, Vrex's second-in-command. "Perhaps," Vrex considered for a moment. "Or it could be a cloaked vessel using technology we haven't encountered before. The Thelicosa have been rumored to be developing new stealth systems. Should we report to High Command?" Vrex's frill flattened against his skull, a gesture of dismissal. "And admit we detected something we cannot identify?" "No. The Implacable doesn't report failures." He studied the readings again. "Change course to intercept. We'll investigate directly." The decision was made with the casual arrogance characteristic of KRYLL command officers. No communication was sent to Concord Traffic Control. No notice was given to other vessels in the sector. 3 hours later, the Implacable sensors detected another vessel approaching, this one with a clear and identifiable energy signature. "Human transport vessel," Krell reported. "Civilian configuration. Moderate energy readings consistent with their standard drive systems." "Interesting timing," Vrex mused. "They've emerged near where we detected the anomaly. Perhaps they're rendezvousing with whatever we detected," suggested Drax. "If so, they're violating at least 3 Concord transportation protocols." Vrex's eyes narrowed. "Target their propulsion systems. Let's see what they're really doing out here." "Sir," Krell interjected, "our scans show no weapon signatures or unusual cargo. Standard life sign readings consistent with a passenger vessel." Vrex waved a dismissive hand. "Humans are primitive but cunning. They could be using their civilian ships for intelligence gathering. The High Command would reward us for uncovering such deception." On board the Stellar Horizon, the first indication of trouble came when the sensor array detected the approaching KRYLL vessel. "Captain, we have a KRYLL warship on an intercept course," reported Lieutenant Chan from Tactical. "They're not responding to standard identification protocols." Rodriguez frowned. "That's unusual. We're well within the established neutral transit corridor." "They've locked weapons systems on us," Chan announced, his voice rising with alarm. "That's impossible," Rodriguez said, though the warning indicators flashing across her console confirmed it. "Broadcast emergency protocols. All languages, all frequencies. Make it clear we're a civilian transport under Concord protection." "Broadcasting now," Communications Officer Patel replied, her fingers flying across her console. "All hands, yellow alert," Rodriguez announced shipwide. "Passengers, secure for possible emergency maneuvers." She turned to her first officer. "Tomas, give me the KRYLL commander. There has to be some misunderstanding." Before Wei could establish communication, the Stellar Horizon shuddered violently as energy beams sliced through its minimal defensive shields. "Direct hit to port engine assembly," engineering reported. "Containment fields failing. Red alert. All hands to emergency stations. Launch distress beacons." Rodriguez fought to keep her voice steady as chaos erupted around her. "Helm, evasive pattern Delta." The aging transport vessel was no match for a KRYLL battle cruiser. Its evasive maneuvers were ponderous compared to the warship's nimble pursuit. 3 more precision strikes disabled the remaining engines, life support, and communications array. In the passenger compartments, chaos reigned. Emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow over panicked faces. Eliza Lawrence clutched her sample case, refusing to abandon her life's work even as evacuation orders blared over the intercom. Dr. Patel had converted the ship's lounge into a triage center, treating those injured in the initial attack. "Everyone to the escape pods," a crewman shouted above the din of alarms. "Move quickly but orderly." On the bridge, Rodriguez made her final decision as the ship began to break apart around her. "Launch all occupied escape pods," she ordered. "Priority override on pod shields. Divert all remaining power to their propulsion systems." "Captain," Wei protested, "there's still time for you to execute the order first." "Officer," Rodriguez's voice was steel, "get as many out as you can." As the escape pods jettisoned from the dying vessel, Rodriguez transmitted one final message on all frequencies. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the civilian transport Stellar Horizon. We are an unarmed passenger vessel. I repeat, we are unarmed with civilians aboard. Our complement includes children and medical personnel. We claim Concord protection under Article." The transmission ended as another volley from the Implacable struck the bridge directly. On the KRYLL vessel, Vrex observed the destruction with clinical detachment. "Target neutralized," reported the weapons officer. "Scan for survivors," Vrex ordered. Several small craft detected, likely escape pods. "Minimal life support capabilities." Vrex considered for a moment. "Leave them. Local traffic will pick them up eventually." He turned to his communications officer. "Log the engagement as unidentified vessel destroyed following failure to respond to official hailing and threatening maneuvers." "Standard protocol." "Any escape pods, sir?" "Not worth the effort," Vrex replied. "Set course for the Heckin shipyards. We're due for scheduled maintenance." As the Implacable disappeared into hyperspace, the scattered escape pods of the Stellar Horizon drifted in the void. Of the 215 souls aboard the transport, only 73 survived in the pods. They would float for nearly 30 hours before a Jacko trading vessel responded to their automated distress signals. Back on Earth, the news of the attacks spread rapidly. Memorial services were held in cities around the globe. Political leaders issued statements condemning the unprovoked aggression. Public sentiment called for immediate and decisive response. Yet from Earth's unified government, there came only silence. No official statement. No diplomatic protests filed with the Concord. No military vessels diverted to the sector. To outside observers, it appeared that humanity had simply accepted the tragedy as the cost of venturing into space, a resignation to their status as cosmic middleweights. Nothing could have been further from a truth. Deep beneath the Olympus Mons research complex on Mars, 12 individuals gathered around a circular table in a room whose existence appeared on no official blueprint. Known simply as the Response Committee, these men and women represented the pinnacle of Earth's military strategy, scientific achievement, and intelligence capabilities. Their authority, granted by secret protocol following humanity's admission to the Concord, was absolute in matters deemed existential to human interests. Admiral Helena Vasily, the committee's chair, reviewed the holographic display hovering above the table center. "The black box data from the escape pods confirms it. The KRYLL vessel fired without warning or provocation. They made no attempt to communicate before attacking. The Stellar Horizon was broadcasting standard IFF signals," added Director Julian Meyer of Intelligence. "There's no possibility they mistook it for anything other than what it was, a civilian transport." "Survivors' accounts align with the technical data," said General Okari, the youngest member of the committee. Captain Rodriguez followed all protocols to the letter. The KRYLL simply didn't care. "This represents a clear violation of at least 7 Concord statutes," noted Ambassador Lin, Earth's former representative to the Concord before her retirement and subsequent appointment to the committee. "We have grounds for a formal grievance." "And what would that accomplish?" Vasily asked, though she clearly knew the answer. "Very little," Lin admitted. The KRYLL would deny responsibility or cite some fabricated provocation. The case would languish in Concord bureaucracy for years. By the time any ruling came down, most of the victims' families would have died of old age. What about conventional military response? General Okari suggested. We have the 4th Fleet positioned near Alpha Centauri. We could strike a KRYLL outpost or military installation. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the committee's senior scientific advisor, shook her head. The 4th Fleet wouldn't stand a chance against organized KRYLL resistance. We'd lose thousands more lives, and the KRYLL would use it as justification for further aggression against our colonies. We could request Concord peacekeeping intervention, Ambassador Lin suggested without conviction. Too slow, too uncertain, Vasily replied. We need to send a clear message, not just to the KRYLL, but to the entire Concord. Humanity will not tolerate the slaughter of our civilians. A heavy silence fell over the room. Finally, Dr. Kane spoke the words they had all been considering. There is Protocol Omega. The air seemed to grow colder at the mention. Protocol Omega represented Earth's ultimate classified technology, a contingency developed for the gravest circumstances. Project Scalpel is operational, Kane continued. It has never been field-tested, but the simulations are compelling. The risks, General Okari began, are considerable, Kane acknowledged. But it offers what we need most: precision. No collateral damage. No civilian casualties. A surgical strike that cannot be traced back to us definitively. And if it fails? Lin asked. Then we're no worse off than we are now, Vasily answered. But if it succeeds, we demonstrate capability without revealing methodology. We achieve justice without initiating war. Director Meyer cleared his throat. Intelligence has identified the KRYLL vessel responsible. The battle cruiser Implacable, commanded by one Commander Rex. It's currently scheduled for maintenance at the Heckin shipyards. A perfect target, Kane said quietly. Military installation, minimal civilian presence, and direct connection to the responsible party. The ethical implications, Lin began, were settled when they destroyed an unarmed passenger ship, Vasily interrupted, her voice hardened by decades of command. The moral calculation is simple. We must respond, and we must do so in a way that prevents future aggression rather than invites it. One by one, the committee members cast their votes. The decision was unanimous. Operation Precise Response is authorized, Vasily declared. Dr. Kane, initiate scalpel deployment. Director Meyer, ensure all intelligence assets are positioned to monitor aftermath and reaction. Ambassador Lin, prepare the diplomatic response for when the operation concludes. And God help us all, murmured General Okari as the meeting adjourned. To the handful of security personnel cleared to know of its existence, the UES Nightshade was simply referred to as the asset, housed in a classified hangar beneath the lunar surface. The vessel represented the pinnacle of Earth's covert technological achievement. Unlike conventional ships with their obvious thrusters and massive hulls, the Nightshade seemed almost organic, a flowing, asymmetrical shape that defied intuitive understanding of spacecraft design. Its hull absorbed rather than reflected light, creating an unsettling visual effect, as if looking at a mobile absence rather than a physical object. Its commander, Captain Moira Zhang, had no official service record. According to all databases, she had died during a training accident 6 years earlier. The same was true for each of the 11 specialists who comprised her crew, the finest minds Earth could offer, officially deceased, now serving on a ship that didn't exist. Dr. Kane supervised personally as the weapon canisters were loaded into Nightshade's specialized deployment system. Each cylinder, no larger than a human form, contained what Kane privately referred to as her life's work, the culmination of quantum physics theory that other species had abandoned as impractical decades ago. The targeting parameters have been triple verified against intelligence, Kane explained to Zhang. The nanite swarm will affect only the designated molecular structures, down to the isotope signature of the specific alloys used in KRYLL battle cruisers. and the system will differentiate between the target vessels and other objects. Zhang confirmed. Absolute precision, Kane assured her. That's why we call it Scalpel. The quantum destabilizers operate on principles similar to your ship's slipstream drive. They exist partially outside normal space-time until they reach their programmed targets. They're functionally immune to conventional defenses. Zhang nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the pressure she surely felt. In deployment range, you'll need to be within 50,000 kilometers, inside their defense perimeter, but not close enough to trigger proximity alerts. Your stealth systems should make that possible. Should? Zhang raised an eyebrow. Kane met her gaze directly. Nothing like this has ever been attempted, Captain. What I can tell you with certainty is that if anyone can deliver the package successfully, it's your crew and your ship. Understood. Zhang extended her hand. When we return, Doctor, I'd appreciate a more thorough explanation of how your impossible technology works. Kane shook the offer hand. It's a date, Captain. Good hunting. The development of Project Scalpel represented a peculiar blind spot in galactic technological evolution. Most advanced species had pursued energy weapons, shield technology, and faster-than-light travel along similar developmental paths. Humanity, arriving late to interstellar society, had been forced to catch up quickly by focusing on areas others had deemed unpromising. Quantum entanglement manipulation had been dismissed by KRYLL physicists centuries earlier as too unstable for practical application. Thelicosa scientists had concluded that targeted molecular destabilization required energy inputs that made it inefficient compared to conventional weapons. The Jacko had explored similar technology but abandoned it after several catastrophic laboratory accidents. Humans, with their peculiar combination of desperation, ingenuity, and willingness to pursue dangerous knowledge, had persisted where others retreated. The result was a weapon system that operated on principles most Concord species considered theoretically impossible, a blind spot in their defensive thinking. Nightshade departed its lunar hangar under complete communications blackout. Its slipstream drive activated at the edge of Sol system, bypassing the monitored jump gates used by conventional traffic. To observers, there was nothing to see. No energy flare, no distortion effect. The ship simply ceased to exist in one location and began to exist in another. The journey to KRYLL space took 17 hours, a fraction of the time required by standard vessels. For most of that time, Nightshade traveled through what the crew called the gray space, the quantum boundary layer between normal space and higher dimensions that allowed the slipstream drive to function. Captain Zhang used the transit time to brief her crew on their mission parameters. The specialists, each the best in their field, received the information with the same professional detachment that had earned them selection for the Nightshade program. Our objective is precise and limited, Zhang explained. We deploy the Scalpel package, confirm effect, and withdraw. No additional actions, no deviation from the mission profile. If anything goes wrong, Protocol Omega dictates immediate withdrawal rather than improvisation. What if we're detected? Asked Lieutenant Commander Takahashi, the tactical officer. We won't be, replied Lieutenant Suarez from operations. Whisper Protocol ensures we remain absent from all known detection methods. But if we are, Zhang emphasized, we retreat immediately. This mission cannot be compromised under any circumstances. As Nightshade approached KRYLL space, the atmosphere on board shifted from professional confidence to focused intensity. Every system was checked and rechecked. The Scalpel package underwent final verification. The ship's unique stealth systems, which worked not by deflecting sensors, but by existing partially out of phase with normal spacetime, were calibrated to their maximum effectiveness. Transition to normal space in 3 minutes, announced the navigation officer. All hands to insertion stations. Zhang took her command chair, her expression serene despite the weight of responsibility. Activate Whisper Protocol. Passive sensors only. Nightshade slipped into normal space like a shadow melting into deeper darkness. Around them, the KRYLL defense network continued its routine operations, oblivious to the intruder in its midst. "System is quiet," reported Takahashi. "No indication they've detected our arrival." "Proceed to deployment coordinates," Zhang ordered. "Minimum propulsion, maximum stealth profile." Moving through KRYLL space required patience and precision. Nightshade avoided regular patrol routes and sensor clusters, sometimes holding position for hours while KRYLL vessels passed nearby. The ship's exotic drive system allowed it to hover without the telltale emissions that would betray conventional vessels. Its hull absorbed rather than reflected scanner waves, appearing at most as a momentary sensor, Ghost easily dismissed as equipment malfunction. 3 days after entering KRYLL territory, Nightshade achieved optimal position near the Hecken shipyards. The massive facility housed construction and maintenance bays for the pride of the KRYLL fleet, including 3 battle cruisers of the same class as the Implacable, currently undergoing its scheduled maintenance in Bay 17. Visual confirmation of target, Suarez reported, enhancing the image on the main display. The Implacable hung suspended in its maintenance cradle, surrounded by work platforms and service vessels. Its fearsome weapons systems were temporarily offline during the maintenance cycle. Had this been a conventional attack, it would have been the perfect moment to strike. But Operation Precise Response had a different objective. "Deploy sensor ghosts," Zhang ordered. Nightshade released a pattern of specialized drones designed to create false returns on KRYLL sensors, minor anomalies that would draw attention away from their actual position. These technological decoys would register as fleeting signals on different frequencies, causing the KRYLL operators to focus their troubleshooting efforts elsewhere. "Package deployment window opens in 3 minutes," Takahashi announced. "Trajectory calculated to avoid all known sensor fields." Zhang studied the tactical display. "Deploy when ready, Lieutenant Commander." With a nearly inaudible hiss, the Nightshade released its deadly cargo. The cylindrical canisters, each barely visible even without stealth technology, followed precisely calculated trajectories toward the shipyard facility. Inside the Hecken Control Center, a junior sensor technician frowned at his display. "Sir, I'm detecting anomalous readings in sectors 14 through 17. His supervisor glanced at the screen. "System diagnostics shows green. Probably atmospheric interference from a gas giant. But sir, the pattern seems..." "I don't have time for ghost readings, technician. The maintenance schedule is already behind, and Commander Vrex has been quite clear about his expectations for completion." "Yes, sir." The technician adjusted his instruments, trying to filter out what he assumed must be background noise. The canisters reached their programmed positions around the shipyard, focusing particularly on the maintenance bay housing the Implacable and 2 adjacent bays containing similar vessels. For several seconds, nothing appeared to happen. Then, without warning or visible effect, the canisters simply dissolved. What followed defied conventional understanding of weapons technology. No explosión, no energy discharge, no radiación surge. Instead, at the quantum level, an impossible cascade began. The specialized nanite swarm, programmed to target only specific molecular structures, infiltrated the KRYLL vessels atom by atom. Once inside, they initiated a process of quantum destabilization, disrupting the very bonds that held matter together in its current form. The effect began slowly, almost imperceptibly, but accelerated exponentially as each destabilized molecule triggered a chain reaction in those adjacent to it. Inside the Implacable, the first indication that something was wrong came when monitoring systems began reporting structural integrity failures across multiple decks simultaneously. Maintenance crews rushed to identify the cause, but found themselves confronting a phenomenon outside their experience. Metal components were losing cohesion, not melting or corroding in any conventional sense, but simply losing the properties that made them solid. Power conduits failed as superconducting materials reverted to base elements. Computer systems crashed as quantum processors descended into chaos. Similar effects spread to the other targeted vessels. In Maintenance Bay 18, a battle cruiser undergoing weapons upgrades suddenly lost gravitational stability as its artificial gravity generators degraded from within. In Bay 16, a vessel just completing final construction phases experienced catastrophic failure of its newly installed drive system. Alarms finally blared throughout the facility as the scope of the disaster became apparent. KRYLL commanders ordered emergency evacuations of all affected vessels. Damage control teams deployed with advanced containment fields found their equipment ineffective against a process they couldn't identify or understand. Within 20 minutes, the 3 targeted vessels had been reduced to inert, useless hulks, their advanced systems and specialized alloys transformed into configurations that rendered them permanently inoperable. The molecular structure of critical components had been rewritten at such a fundamental level that no repair was possible. They would have to be completely scrapped. Remarkably, not a single explosion had occurred. No hull breach, no radiation leak, no fire. Just the silent, inexorable failure of extremely complex systems rendered non-functional by an invisible enemy. And most significantly, no casualties. The maintenance crews and skeleton crews aboard the vessels had evacuated safely, confused and frightened, but physically unharmed. Aboard Nightshade, the crew monitored the effects with professional detachment. Target effect confirmed, reported Takahashi. All 3 vessels showing complete systems failure. No collateral damage detected. No casualties reported on KRYLL emergency channels, added Suarez. They're completely bewildered. Evacuation protocols have been executed successfully. Zhang allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Commence withdrawal sequence. With the same ghost-like stealth that had characterized its approach, Nightshade slipped away from the Heckin shipyards. By the time the KRYLL began expanding their sensor sweep to search for possible causes of the mysterious catastrophe, the Earth vessel was already transitioning back to slipstream, leaving no trace of its presence. The KRYLL response to the Heckin incident was predictably chaotic. Initial investigations focused on potential sabotage or manufacturing defects. When those yielded no explanations, more exotic theories emerged. Everything from unknown natural phenomena to the intervention of theoretical higher-dimensional beings occasionally hypothesized in KRYLL mystical traditions. What no one suggested, because no one considered it remotely possible, was that humans possess technology capable of bypassing the most advanced KRYLL defenses and neutralizing their most powerful warships without firing a single conventional shot. Commander Vrex found himself summoned before the High Command to explain the loss of his vessel. His inability to provide a satisfactory explanation resulted in an immediate demotion. In KRYLL society, failure was inexcusable regardless of circumstances. As reports of the mysterious incident leaked beyond KRYLL space, the Galactic Concord convened an emergency session. The KRYLL delegation, led by Supreme Commander Garex, demanded investigation into what they termed technological terrorism. 3 of our most advanced vessels have been rendered inoperable through means unknown to our science, Garex declared to the assembled delegates. This represents not merely an act of aggression, but a threat to the technological foundation upon which Concord civilization rests. We demand a full investigative committee and sanctions against the responsible party once identified. The chamber buzzed with concerned conversation. Attacks using unknown technology generated fear even among species that considered themselves technologically superior. If it could happen to the KRYLL, with their formidable defense systems, who might be targeted next? As the discussion continued, Ambassador Chun, Earth's official Concord representative, requested speaking privileges, a request that normally would have triggered an exodus from the chamber. Today, however, curiosity kept delegates in their seats. Esteemed representatives of the Concord, Chun began, her voice calm and measured. Before this body considers the KRYLL request for investigation, I am instructed to bring another matter to your attention. The display behind her activated, showing recorded data from the Stellar Horizon's black box and survivor testimony. With clinical precision, Chen detailed the unprovoked attack on the human transport vessel, the clear violation of Concorde navigation protocols, and the subsequent loss of 142 innocent lives. The vessel responsible for this attack, Chen continued, was the KRYLL battle cruiser Implacable, commanded by Commander Vrex, acting without provocation or warning against an unarmed civilian transport, clearly broadcasting its identity and civilian status. She paused, allowing the information to settle across the chamber. Several delegates turned to look at the KRYLL representatives, whose expressions remained impassive. I am further instructed to inform this body that approximately 17 standard days after this attack, the Earth government executed a precisely targeted response against military assets directly connected to the unprovoked aggression against our citizens. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. 3 KRYLL military vessels at the Heckin shipyards, including the Implacable itself, were rendered non-operational through classified technology. I draw this body's attention to 3 critical facts. First, the response targeted only military assets directly linked to the initial aggression. Second, not a single casualty resulted from our action. All KRYLL personnel evacuated safely. Third, no collateral damage occurred to any structures or vessels not directly targeted. Chen's gaze swept the chamber, meeting the eyes of key delegates. The Earth government considers this matter closed. Justice has been served through proportional response with minimal impact. The technology used in this operation is classified under Earth's sovereign security protocols and will remain so. It will not be used again unless similar unprovoked aggression against our civilian population occurs. She paused again before delivering the final message. We trust this demonstration of precise response capability will ensure that such aggression does not recur. Earth wishes peace with all Concorde species, including the KRYLL. But make no mistake, attacks on our civilian population will never go unanswered. The silence that followed was profound. Eventually, a JACA delegate broke it with a formal procedural question. Does the Earth delegation oppose the formation of an investigative committee as requested by the KRYLL? Earth has no objection to investigation, Chen replied evenly. However, we will not participate beyond the statement I have just provided, nor will we share classified technology information with any committee. We have nothing to hide regarding the facts of either incident, only the methodology of our response. The KRYLL delegation erupted in protest, demanding sanctions, technology disclosure, and reparations. But the mood of the chamber had shifted. No species was eager to challenge a power that had demonstrated such precise strike capability, particularly when that strike had been provoked by a clear violation of Concorde protocols. The Thelicosa representative, speaking with the measured consideration characteristic of his ancient species, summarized what many were thinking. We observed 2 incidents. In the first, innocent lives were lost through unprovoked aggression. In the second, no lives were lost, but property damage was inflicted as a direct consequence of the first incident. The proportionality seems instructive. In the diplomatic reception following the session, Ambassador Chen found herself approached by representatives who had previously ignored human delegates entirely. They asked carefully worded questions, offered subtle diplomatic overtures, and generally treated her with a new level of respect tinged with wary curiosity. The Jakku ambassador, renowned for his species' pragmatic approach to interstellar relations, was more direct than most. Your species, he observed quietly, has been holding cards close to your collective chest, as you might say. We are a young species, Chen replied. We learn to play the games we find ourselves in. Indeed, the Jakku's multifaceted eyes studied her. Playing to lose until others underestimate you is an ancient strategy. I couldn't comment on our strategic approach, Ambassador. I would note only that humanity values peace and cooperative development. But we value our people's lives more. The Nightshade returned to its lunar hangar without fanfare. The crew dispersed to their separate lives, continuing the fiction of their official deaths. Captain Zhang delivered her mission report directly to Admiral Vasily in a secure facility beneath Geneva. Operational objectives achieved with 100% success rate, Zhang reported. No detection, no casualties, no collateral damage. And the system performed exactly as Dr. Kane predicted? Better, in some respects. The targeting precision exceeded our most optimistic projections. Vasily nodded, satisfied. The response committee sends their congratulations. This mission will never appear in any official record, Captain, but you and your crew have changed humanity's position in the Concorde permanently. Permission to speak freely, Admiral. Granted. Was it worth it? The lives on the stellar horizon are still lost. Vasily's expression softened slightly. Justice isn't about undoing harm, Captain. It's about ensuring consequences for those who cause harm and preventing similar harm in the future. She gestured to a data pad containing early diplomatic reports from the Concorde. Every indication suggests we've achieved both objectives. The KRYLL have recalled their border patrols from human colony approaches. 3 other species have initiated trade negotiation requests in the past 12 hours. And most importantly, no one is quite sure what we're capable of anymore. Later that day, Dr. Kane met with the Admiral in a quiet corner of the Geneva Gardens. Spring flowers were blooming, a pleasant contrast to the sterile environment of the lunar base where Kane spent most of her time. Was it everything you hoped, Elizabeth? Vasily asked as they watched a hummingbird dart among the blossoms. Technically, yes. The quantum destabilization worked precisely as theorized. Kane's expression remained troubled. But I created this technology to save lives, Helena, to make warfare obsolete through precision that eliminated collateral damage. And that's exactly what you've done, Vasily countered. Think of how many would have died in a conventional military response. How many more would die in the escalation that followed? I know, Kane sighed. It's just, technology meant to end killing is still being used to destroy. Not to destroy life, Vasily emphasized. That distinction matters. Kane nodded slowly. Do you think they understand the message?